What have we got today? Well, today I've got a Zeiss Ikon Contessa 35, which is a rangefinder camera, built-in exposure meter. You could say it was a competitor to the folding retinas, probably much aligned with the Retina 2A. I think it was from much the same time period. Quite a nice camera, Tessar lens, certainly capable of producing good results. Synchro-Compur shutter. If it's got one drawback, it would be that you have to cock the shutter manually, as you would do with the earlier retinas. By the time you got to the Retina 1A and 2A, the shutter was cocked by the film advance. So this camera, what's wrong with it and what's right with it? Well, I've had a look through the viewfinder and it's exceptionally dirty. It's very hard to see through. It's just like a brown haze. So it certainly needs to be cleaned up. The rangefinder looks like it might be relatively accurate, but it's very difficult to see through there. The shutter needs to be serviced. I've tested that. The slow speeds are quite slow. The exposure meter is absolutely dead. No response to light at all there. I will check that, but I suspect that that's never going to come back to life. When they're absolutely dead, it's always possible the selenium cell has died completely, but generally they have a little bit of life in them and will react to some extent. It's much more likely that the movement has gone open circuit. Although, you know, the possibility of a broken connection is in there somewhere is always something we can be thinking about. What am I going to deal with first? Well, it's difficult to say what I should deal with first. I think I might start with the top of the camera and open this up with a view to cleaning that viewfinder and seeing if I can get something that I can actually see through. I'll start fighting my way into this camera. It's a while since I've done one of these. That screw came out readily enough. There's a little wire spring washer underneath that, so don't lose that. I'm not throwing everything in one box like I would with a Retina, because I am not that familiar where things go. Goes off. I think we have to take the shoe off on this model. I don't think we can get the top cover back off otherwise. The shoe doesn't hold the top cover down, but it creates an obstacle to lifting the shoe up, the cover off. It's the spring from the shoe. Is that washer held there, or is it just sitting there? It's just sitting there. Two screws. I certainly didn't want the top cover getting away. That one there, does that do anything? Yes, it does hold the top down. This thing here, this was the adjustment for the exposure meter. Unfortunately, it won't adjust the exposure meter from dead to alive. That collar goes right into the top of the housing under there, the meter housing. So that's got to come off. I'm just turning this with a toothpick. I don't want to use a tool and scratch the top cover up. And that's the little adjustment screw from underneath. That's an eccentric. That's just sitting in there. That should do it, I think. Yeah, it's lifting off. Sticky. Okay, why is that so sticky? It's got some sticky crap on the back there. Here. I don't know what to make of that. It's like wax. I don't know what that's doing there. Alright, well that's the top of the camera apart. I'll remove the cover at this end, should give me access to cleaning the rangefinder components here. That cover comes off. Okay. Now there's a bar of glass that runs right through here. Need to lift this piece here off too. Got 4 screws under it. This is the mount for the accessory shoe. That pretty much exposes all the glass surfaces. Some of them are going to be awkward to get into because I've got to try and work in a tiny gap there in order to clean that surface. But a lot of the filth is obviously on the eyepiece here. The front glass looks relatively clean. And this is a prism arrangement here, which takes the light through here. It must have an angle across the prism there, and there's a split image at this end. I can probably lift that prism out. This piece is certainly a mask of some sort, and that'll probably lift out. I'm just a bit rusty at working on this one. Yeah, that mask comes out. There's a clamp here. Two screws. Where'd that screw get to? There it is. Little clamp bracket can come out. There's a piece of card that's sticking on the top of that prism arrangement. Now there's nothing holding my strap lug in at this end because that single screw at the end of the top cover there went through this, so I'll take that out so I don't lose it. Let's see if that prism will come loose for me. It was probably just clamped in place, but it's probably stuck with age now. There, it's coming loose. Okay. So I'm looking at the surfaces of this. There are only 4 cleanable glass surfaces. They all look a little bit dirty, nothing dramatic. The front window here I can get to easily enough. And the eyepiece at the back here I think I can get to as well. And the glass at the front clearly I can get to. So cleaning these components up should be relatively easy. So I'll start tidying some of this up and get ready to clean that glass. Well, the first thing I'm interested in is the obviously dirty eyepiece at the back here, to see if that will clean up well. So I'm just using some normal domestic glass cleaner on a cotton bud, and this is just very dirty. Well, that made an amazing difference, and that was just cleaning it with a bit of glass cleaner. So that was probably the main fault, and of course it was something that could be dealt with from the outside of the camera. Need to have the camera apart to deal with that. Well, I needed to get to the other surfaces as well. But in this case, there's no doubt that the majority of the problem was simply the external surface of the eyepiece here. That's probably a compound arrangement at the rear. I'm just getting to the easily accessible surfaces at the moment, the one at the front and the one at the rear of that piece. And of course the front window here is always open to fingerprints, so it's no wonder that's a little bit dirty. This is just plain glass here, it's not a lens of any description. And the inside surface, can I get to that? Yes, it looks like it. And I'll just peer out through that viewfinder now and see what the view looks like. Well, that's nice and clear. That's great. That's all I needed to do there. So the front window at the top here, for the rangefinder, I need to deal with that. And then just you're doing the same thing basically. I'm just using a bit of glass cleaner. I'll clean the outside surface first because that will be the dirtiest, most likely. So it's fairly well protected in that back in that space. It's probably still had the occasional finger on it. That looks very good. Well, I'm going to have the shutter off anyway, so I'm not going to bother cleaning this lens at the moment. I need to blow out any loose dust from here and clean this prism arrangement and put that back in. I'll just loosen up any dust in here and then blow it all away. It's pretty clean in there. This arrangement here, it's quite dirty, the front surface, nothing dramatic, it's not greasy or anything, just a bit dusty looking. So I'll clean these surfaces. You'd need to be quite gentle handling something like this. I don't know how well cemented the components are. Obviously there's another piece of glass cemented on here to give us our semi-silvered mirror, and I don't know how well that's all glued in place. And I don't want to find out. That's good. See about putting that back in the body. So I immediately dropped one of the screws back down into the body where I can't get at it. There's a better pair of tweezers. That one might help. Now I'm going to have to shake that out. The holes in this bracket are slotted, which almost certainly means that I can put the screws in place, slide the prism forward, firmly in position, slide the bracket up behind it and tighten the screws. And this mask arrangement, there's not much to say about that. That's very simple. Let's give that a wipe on the front. It's just got someone's greasy fingerprint on it. I don't know why it's a bit mutilated at the top, to tell the truth. Can't think of any good reason for that. Just have to make sure this is centered up so that it doesn't obscure the window. But I can see by the marks where the screw head had sat that's... I can look through the port from the front and see how that looks. Cross a little bit more, I think. Yes, that looks all right. Okay, well I suppose the proof of the pudding will be in the eating. Have a look out the window and see how it looks. Well, that actually looks nice and clear. So I think that basically is the viewfinder dealt with. Certainly there's no obvious problem there now. So that part of the job turned out to be quite simple. And I will just clean up everything here and put the top cover and pieces back in place. I'm not sure it's even worth trying to investigate the state of the exposure meter. I really do think it's likely that it's completely dead and it's not going to be, never going to be revived. I'll think about that. I'm going to attempt to clean up this waxy rubbish that's on the back of the camera casting here. I've got no idea what that was all about. It's like a wax. It's quite thick. I don't know whether it's an adhesive that's broken down, whether it was a grease that's lost all its volatiles, that it's certainly almost, it's not, shouldn't be there. There's a lot of it around the top here where the meter housing sits. It's just odd, it's a bit like candle wax or something. Yeah, it is coming away. I don't know what to make of that. I don't know whether it was deliberately put there. It's hard to believe. Or whether something's been spilt on the camera and it's run inside. That's very hard there, that's like adhesive that's sitting on that point. The waxy stuff wasn't. The stuff's loose. The weird things you find in cameras, eh? Oh, I'll come back when I've cleaned that. Don't think I'm going to make that meter go. I don't think that's going to be something I can achieve, but if I remove the scale here I might be able to get that window off and clean it, because the meter window is, well, you can possibly see it's very yellow and it's not exactly transparent. Let's get that off. Yeah. So I'll clean around the top there and then clean that window, which is very yellow plastic, and I suspect that'll clean up fairly well. I'm not sure the yellow colouring will go away. It may do. Certainly that's something I would like to achieve if I can. So, cleaning this window, eh? Right, well I better get ready for that. I've got some Perspex polish here. Let's see if this will do anything on this plastic. I can always replace the window entirely because it's not a complicated shape, it's simply a rectangle. And I'm not sure whether the colour's going to go away. If the colour's sort of baked right into the plastic, it's always going to be a yellow window. But often it's just a contamination on the outer surface and it will polish away completely. I expect we'll find out. It's not looking particularly promising. It's certainly more transparent than it was. The plastic here is looks to me like it was cut from sheet. It wasn't a moulded window, it was cut from sheet. So whatever I make as a replacement won't look out of place. No, the colour's there to stay. But certainly more transparent. I'm inclined to use that again. I don't think the yellow colour particularly detracts from it. It's quite pale. I can probably tell which way around that went. Here again, there it went right in there. Yeah, that's a bit better. That's much more transparent than it used to be. You can't see anything, can you? There it is. There's the window back in place. That looks fine. I will put that back. And I hold that in place with a couple of spots of lacquer. And of course, once the top cover's down on top of that, you will only see a little sliver of window there anyway. Right, move on to the next thing, which in this case will be removing the shutter and working on that, I think, once I've finished cleaning. Oh, I've got to pull all the top cover together, then I'll do the shutter. I don't want pieces scattered all over the bench.